Good morning. My name is Trish McFarland, and we'd like to welcome you to another in our speaker series. It is my honor to be able to bring to you Vince Gordon, who is the chair of our Business, Economic, and Equity Committee and founder and CEO of Gordon Policy Group, to be our moderator for this morning's program. Vince?
Thank you, Trish, and good morning, everyone. And thanks for joining the Delco Chamber and the Chamber's Business and Economic Equity Committee's panel discussion titled Best Procurement Practices for Targeting and Utilizing Small Diverse Businesses. For today's discussion, small diverse businesses are minority, women, veteran, disabled, and LGBTQ-owned businesses with annual revenues below $35 million. Before we introduce our two panelists, I would like to share with the audience information about the Business and Economic Equity Committee. The committee is the newest standing chamber committee, officially formed in July of 2020, and our committee's goals are as follows. First, to encourage and support the hiring of a diverse employee base among businesses in Delaware County. Second, to encourage and support the procurement of goods and services from small diverse businesses in the Delaware Valley region. Third, to encourage Delco Chamber members to support organizations that champion business equity and inclusion. This support could be in time, talent, or treasure. If any of these goals excite you, I encourage any chamber member or potential chamber member to reach out to me or Trish and to join our committee. Now, I would like to introduce our two guests. First, Sue Handel, Senior Vice President, Essential Utilities. Sue is the Chief Administrative Officer at Essential Utilities, which is headquartered in Bryn Mawr, PA. In addition to other responsibilities, the Essential Supply Chain team reports to Sue. Sue and the supply chain team are responsible for leading Essential Supplier Diversity Program. Sue is a lifelong Delaware County resident and a board member of the Delco Chamber of Commerce. I would also like to introduce Ron Baldwin. Ron is Director of Supplier Management and Diversity, AmeriHealth Caritas, headquartered right here in Delaware County. Ron's passion is creating and executing highly effective diverse supplier programs. Since the early 2000s, Ron has been creating and implementing programs targeted at increasing diverse suppliers at the AmeriHealth Caritas family of companies. Ron is also an award-winning supplier diversity executive, receiving this recognition from the Eastern Minority Supplier Development Council. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
My first question is actually for you, Ron. Ron, can you describe AmeriHealth Caritas's Supplier Diversity Procurement Program?
Sure. So I would describe our program, first of all, as a top-down program, meaning that, our program is inclusive of the executives on down to the buyers and all in between. Because the customers are the states, we have to align with those states and in terms of what they are looking for as it relates to diversity and equity in the community. So I think, the best way to describe our program is that, it is a partnership with those states who are seeking to create equity and opportunity in those communities, which is certainly what Caritas does. So we are an extension of our partners, as well as the program certainly is very robust in terms of we have an entrepreneur program where we develop entrepreneurs. We're doing it in Chester. We also have a mentor protege program for suppliers, but we also have a mentor protege program where our executive vice presidents are mentoring small diverse businesses. So I would say that's unique and kind of different from most programs. But the fact of the matter is, it is a top-down program with a very inclusive engagement throughout the entire enterprise.
Great description, Ron. Thank you. Sue, can you describe Essential's SDB procurement program?
Sure, Vince, absolutely. And good morning, everyone. First, I just want to describe briefly a little bit about Essential Utilities. So Essential Utilities is one of the largest publicly traded water, wastewater, and natural gas providers in the United States. We provide for 5 million people across 10 states in the US. So Aqua is our water and wastewater brand, and we are headquartered in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. And Peoples is our natural gas brand, and we're headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We employ over 3,100 people in our across our 10-state territory, And our values are integrity, respect, and excellence. And these are core to not only us, but we expect the same from our suppliers and contractors that work with our organization. So our Supplier Diversity Program, much like Ron's, is a very top-down. We have very strong commitment from the executive leadership throughout the organization. And we're committed to continue to grow and develop that Supplier Diversity Program. So for a corporation of our size in 2020, we procured about $900 million worth of goods and services from our suppliers. Of that, 8% were with diverse suppliers. Now those diverse suppliers go across all sizes. We have small diverse suppliers and we have very large diverse suppliers. And then in addition to that 8%, we also separately procured service through our small business suppliers. So about 10% of our suppliers are small businesses, and they're a very key part of our supplier base. We procure across multiple categories like construction, engineering, materials, fleet, to support our operations. And we also procure across HR, IT, legal, and finance. We have a very robust program. We work with all of our business leaders who have responsibilities for those functions, and we work with our suppliers to ensure that we are including diverse suppliers, small business suppliers who are part of our bid process. So we are highly committed to this program. And as a company, we've committed to grow our business, and we have a long-term goal of 15% over the next several years. Thank you, Vince.
Great, Sue. That's really great information, and at both Caritas and Essential, I knew it was really important to have both of you talk about your programs. Sue, this question's for you. How does Essential identify small diverse businesses?
Well, first of all, with supplier diversity and with small businesses, it's really a partnership. There are many organizations that we work with to help us identify organizations that are either minority, women, veterans, disabled, or LGBTQ. There are you mentioned the Eastern Minority Council, which is one, and there are many councils that we work with to help us with this. There's also chambers of commerce. We also have connections throughout our states with other organizations to help us, seek and make sure that we're inclusive to include those folks in our bids. We also utilize a national database where there's tens of thousands of suppliers that are recognized as either small business or small business diverse. And we use that because if we're going out for a bid for any of those categories I talked about, in any of the geographies I talked about, we will use this as a database. And I think another thing that we've found very effective are matchmaker events. And this is a very typical process that is used in supplier diversity. We've recently participated with one with the Minority Council, and we've met, a dozen suppliers, and I'm happy to say one of them is now doing business with us. So that's kind of the process that we use. Thank you.
Great. Ron, same question. How does Caritas identify small diverse vendors?
Just like Sue, we have a very similar process. We're members of the National Minority Supply Development Council. We utilize the council as well as the MSDC with Valerie, and also those state agencies, the Minority Business Development Agency. And we also use diverse suppliers to identify other diverse suppliers that are competitive and seeking opportunities to do business with Caritas. So there's a number of different ways, the panel discussions, the matchmaking. There's a ton of ways we identify, but those probably are the primary ways that we seek to identify diverse suppliers. And also through our, other corporations like us. So we look to see what they're doing, who their best suppliers are, and if we can utilize them.
Great. Thanks, Ron. That's really good information. Ron, and I know you sort of touched on this, but maybe you can talk a little bit more. Why target and utilize small, diverse suppliers in your corporate portfolio of vendors?
Well, a couple of reasons. Because we're Medicaid, and our business is about serving those under-resourced communities, it just makes sense. I mean, AmeriHealth Caritas is focused on bringing health equity to communities, but, in our opinion, a healthy community without economics eventually is going to become sick again. So those two go hand in hand. So we utilize those diverse suppliers to do job creation, training, marketable skills for our members, to try to uplift those under-resourced communities so they are in a better position to grow and thrive. And it just makes good business sense for us because, there's a competitive edge to it. And, it helps to bring communities, in a place where they're able to kind of take care of themselves, so we want to plant those seeds so those communities are able to replicate those efforts where they now begin to thrive and grow and compete, with other communities. So that's our main goal for doing it. We want to make communities better because our motto is, we are the health plan that cares. So that's part of our mission.
Great. I mean, that's great stuff. Sue, same question. Why Target? I mean, I know you talked about it, but what's really driving Essential's desire to utilize small, diverse businesses in their corporate portfolio?
Yeah, so in my opening comments, I spoke about the customers that we serve. So we serve 5 million customers across 10 states. So it's really important that our suppliers reflect the communities that we serve. So we really value different ethnicities, genders, and backgrounds, and are dedicated to supporting diverse suppliers. We also recognize that these suppliers are very innovative and agile. I have 2 examples where one supplier we had worked with early on, provided a service for us in our construction area, and they were able to start with us with 1 crew. And then as we developed that relationship, we were able to find that they were very agile and able to adjust to some of our requirements, and they were able to scale with us. And we're now with that supplier for many years. Another example, we had a supplier who's very innovative. We needed during COVID time to respond to a request. And we worked with that supplier. This was one of our small diverse suppliers. And we came through with, here was our requirement we needed for some safety requirements, and they were able to meet us where that need was. So we found that with these suppliers, innovation, agility, and ability to scale are really great factors. So I think, as I said earlier, again, even though we're a very large corporation, we do have a really great, thriving base of small businesses that we work with.
Wow, that's really great, Sue. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, let me ask you this, another follow-up question, Sue. In addition to purchasing goods and services from these suppliers, how else does Essential support SDBs?
Yeah, so, I'll give you a couple things. So like I was talking about the one supplier that I gave an example where we're growing with them. We are supporting and working with these suppliers, and they support Essential as well, because as our demands grow, we're able to grow along with them. So so that helps them with their business. Also, not everyone's interested in certification, so I'll say that out loud. But for those suppliers that are interested in certification, we have held training sessions or information sessions, or we give access to the great advice of some of our councils who are there to help us. And for those that desire to go that way, it actually could help their business in the long run, because many companies are looking for that certification. We also, as I said earlier, we have a very big part of our business is construction. So if you think of our business, we're putting in pipes to bring water and natural gas to our customers' homes or to commercial customers. And with that infrastructure build, there are a lot of subs that these contractors need. So we help work with our primes to help encourage and recognize the need to have diverse subs that work with them. And in these cases, there are trucking companies, there's flagging companies, and there's others that work with them. So that we encourage that partnership as well.
Great, Sue. Thank you very much. Ron, you did touch on this in your opening, but how else does Caritas support these SDBs?
Okay, so there are a few things that we do to support small diverse businesses. One of the things that we do in terms of the certification, we do have a program where we actually will cover the cost of those certifications, the minority business certifications for some of our MBEs. One of the things that we just implemented this year is that we have a scholarship to Tuck Business School that we will award at the end of the year. COVID this year, I mean, with the remote working makes it a little bit challenging, but we'll figure out how to put something together to make sure we award that scholarship before the end of the year. And also the Mentor Protege Program. We've had a program for years where we, from a sourcing perspective, have mentored suppliers, you know, on how to navigate the process, how to engage Caritas, and how to better understand and respond to our RFP requests. But this year, we've done something different and new where the executive vice presidents, including our president and CEO, are now mentoring diverse suppliers for a year. And the goal and the thought process was that there's a lot of things going on in these diverse communities. So in order for us to be better connected, then we thought we would connect these suppliers with our executive team. So they now have a better understanding of what the challenges are, you know, especially when you are having other discussions with CEOs and your counterparts. Instead of being a participant, you're now kind of leading the discussions because you are speaking from experience, firsthand experience through your interaction with those folks who are impacted by those policies that are in place. And it also gives them more insight in terms of those great innovations and those different creative processes that these suppliers bring to corporations, to companies. So it just strengthens our commitment. It strengthens our relationships with those suppliers and those communities that we serve. So those are some of the three things that we do that are top of mind.
Well, pretty powerful stuff. Thanks, Ron. Another question, Ron. You know, what advice would you give smaller or even similar sized organizations on how best to grow their SDB portfolio?
I mean, I think the first thing to do is to kind of, you know, well, first thing I would do is join the EMSDC or one of the Minority Supply Development Councils. The National Council, you know, has a lot of great programs and interaction with people who are doing it best. And they allow you the opportunity to connect with those folks to understand what the best practices are. The other piece is, you know, I would talk to corporations, you know, in your region that have a very robust program to understand, you know, how did they establish it? You know, what are the ingredients that went into it? And I guess one of the bigger things is that first you need to have leadership commitment, you know, because you could be the best diversity professional, but if you don't have leadership commitment, then you're just spinning your wheels. Eventually, you know, you need to have that top-down support. But, you know, what I've done when I first started, I went and talked to everybody who I could in this space who I thought was doing it well, you know, and I continued that process until I started to gain some traction. But, you know, I think the biggest thing is you need to establish a network where you are able to reach out to folks and get those tools necessary to grow your program, you know, until you're at a comfort level. But, you know, it's a continuous journey of learning. So I'm always reaching out to my counterparts, no matter what state we're doing business, just to make sure that, you know, I understand what is the new innovative ideas, what are the best practices, and also your MBE and small diverse businesses. They have a wealth of knowledge too, because the programs or the policies that you build or you develop are going to impact your ability to move and grow your program and impact your ability and how you do business and how you connect with these small businesses. So they should be part of the process. So I'm looking at a whole 360 process on how to build a great program, because it takes a community to make this thing work. But that's our process at Caritas, and we've been very successful with that process.
Great. Thanks, Ron. Thanks, Sue. What advice would you give to similar or even smaller sized organizations on how to grow their SDB portfolio?
Yeah, so I'm very aligned with Ron's comments. I mean, this is very much a commitment to relationships. It's a very much big commitment to learning, being very curious. It's a journey. It's what I really, really enjoy about our whole Supplier Diversity Program is the networks that we've gotten to expand to with this program. So we have great communication with our different councils, and we, Ron mentioned Valerie before. I don't know if Valerie's on or not, but Valerie Cofield is the CEO of the Eastern Minority Development Council. And I think I speak to Valerie every week. It's because I'm always seeking advice and counsel. And so she's been terrific. We've also worked with a lot of our peers. So other utilities have been really helpful because we share information. We're serving customers for the same reasons. So you can extend this to no matter where you are in terms of your size of company or scale. So it's really about building your networks and really investing in ongoing dialogue and discussions. I also agree with joining in one of those associations, be it minority, women, veteran, LGBTQ. There are different associations that you can join and have those conversations about those how-tos. And then finally, I agree. Any program that's going to be successful, no matter what we tackle as organizations, large or small, you need leadership commitment. And I'm proud to say that we have that throughout, from our CEO through every single category owner, because every category that we have within Essential is owned and led by one of our leaders. And so we have that commitment. So I think I would say recognize it as a journey. It's something you invest in often. Recognize it as learning, because you're always learning something new, and be prepared to call up that trusted colleague, but also be ready to get that call and provide your great advice too. Wow,
both very powerful statements and positions from both Caritas and Essential. I want to thank you both for that. We still have time for questions. If some of the participants have questions for either Ron or Sue, if you would put them in the Q&A, we can try to answer and or address those questions. While we're waiting, I do want to ask, because I think Sue, you mentioned it, and maybe Ron, you mentioned it too, the whole certification issue, because I know personally, as a small diverse business who's both certified as a small minority veteran-owned business, I see the value of certification, but I also really I want to recognize that both of you acknowledge that sometimes can be a barrier or a challenge, and although you may want them to be certified, certainly that's not going to stop you from actually doing business with them. Is that a fair statement, Sue or Ron?
Absolutely. I think early on I gave some statistics. I mean, small businesses are a very robust part of our supplier network. So, 10% of approximately 10% of our business is done with small businesses throughout all 10 states. And I'd say the majority of our business are from companies that are in those different states. So yeah, that is not a barrier. Although again, as you said, when we look at our supplier diversity spend, we do count the certified spend. So if a company is interested in becoming certified, we hold different events, and we also have groups that can help, give them advice and take them through that journey. So,
Ron, I know as a partner with states, and having been a former regulator myself, I understand the importance of certification or validation of the spend, because i.e. these are government dollars. Can you speak to certification, Ron?
Yeah, I mean, so from a Caritas perspective, it's certainly important because it depends on most of our contracts with different states require that we have diversity spend, and as part of that contract, there are certain commitments that you make for the term of that contract. So it's very important for us that we have certified suppliers. But I think what it does is that, it's important to us to have those certified suppliers, but you have to identify them. So it's important for the suppliers to become certified, which I think, that turns into a partnership. It turns into a different relationship because now it's reciprocal. We're kind of helping one another to gain that, but also, we're seeking these suppliers to make that change in the communities in terms of job creation. You know what I mean? So the certification is probably one piece of it, but under that certification, there's a tremendous amount of value that I think people probably don't see, because that certification can turn into job creation. It turns into contracts, It turns into relationships. It turns into a long-term commitment, and it turns into business growth. So, it depends on how these suppliers look at the certification, but I'm always telling suppliers, we need to take a much broader look at the value of it. It's a small investment, but the value, the long-term value, could create huge dividends for you. So very important, that we have those suppliers certified. And like Sue said, it's a journey. And along that journey, we're here to help you, achieve those goals. So we have some reciprocal value that we both achieve.
Great, well, I appreciate that. I do have a question, and this is for Susan. Are the supplier diversity activities for Essential centralized for Aqua and Peoples, or are they handled individually? I couldn't find a supplier diversity contact for your team. Can you provide contact information?
Okay, well, thank you, Vincent, and thank you for that question. So, we have some national contracts that we have for some of our states, and then we have also local contracts. So it's a hybrid. So it really depends upon what the requirements are. So if they're done centrally, those are done by our supply chain team along with our business partner. But those that are done in state are done with our supply chain team and the state representatives. So the contact information is supplier diversity at essential.co, not .com, .co. So you can find us on the essential.co website, and there's links to our Aqua supply chain team, our People supply chain team. But regardless, we're all one. So if you go to either one, that supply chain team is together.
Great, thanks, Sue. And this is a question I think is a good question. This is for both of you, because I know as part of our Business and Economic Equity Committee, and because we are part of the Delco Chamber of Commerce, certainly our advocacy is for those Delaware County-based businesses. But this question is, if you cannot find a specific commodity supplier within your geographical region, do you ever go outside of your area? So if you're looking for a veteran or a minority supplier outside of where your service area is or where you're operating, do your organizations go beyond? Do you cast a wider net, I guess, is the question here.
Sure.
Ron, I don't know if you want to take this one first.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Sure, absolutely. I mean, we operate in 15 states, including the District of Columbia. So we cast a very broad net, as it relates to how we identify suppliers to participate. Sometimes it depends on the contract with the state. Some states we do business and only allow you to do business with suppliers in that state. But for the most part, we cast a very broad net because we're also looking to help these suppliers create partnerships and relationships, with other suppliers in other states. So absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree. I have the same response as Ron. I mean, when we look for suppliers to support our needs, we're looking for, first of all, what the need is, and then we look for suppliers that can perform pricing, quality, the standard things you're looking for. And if we need to go outside of a state, we absolutely will do that. So we do have suppliers in other states outside of our 10, but I would say a large percentage of our supply is done from those states.
Great. This is another good question. I believe this is for both of you. In your experiences, what challenges have you seen with diverse businesses pivoting during the pandemic, and how did they overcome those challenges? If you could provide one or two examples, that would be great. But I know we talk a lot about the pandemic and its impact on small, diverse businesses. Maybe both you and Ron can sort of speak to those challenges or successes in during the pandemic as it relates to small, diverse business procurement.
Sure.
You want to go, Ron?
Oh, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, I've seen some very successful pivoting during diversifiers. I think I was on a panel discussion, moderating a discussion when the pandemic started. And one of the things I think that, the suppliers realize is that the company you were doing business with yesterday in terms of the goods and services kind of changed overnight. You know what I mean? So what I did recognize was that, they were companies who were selling promo items. A lot of those companies pivoted to make masks and things of that sort. There's another company that produces vodka. It's a distillery, Black-owned business. I think it's in Allentown. He's now making hand sanitizers. So I think I've seen quite a bit of success, and then we've seen the opposite, where suppliers kind of failed to keep up with the trend, or at least identify what the new needs were for corporations. And I think, in spite of not being able to pivot, it did help people change their mindset. Because you realize during COVID, you had to have, in my opinion, a robust network of folks to help you out, because this pivoting oftentimes couldn't be done as an individual, it had to be done as a collective. So I think it brought to the importance of why you need to have a robust network and build relationships, because what COVID said, you can't have relationships or build relationships today. They have to be established, and you should have been watering those relationships and nurturing those relationships, so when you need them, you would be able to pivot much more successfully, and I think that was one of the lessons during COVID, because we all had to pivot. Our business changed, our needs changed overnight, but if you had those relationships, then you could have probably been more successful in meeting those new requirements and changes. And also, a lot of things that I've seen is that the diverse suppliers, or any supplier that understood the pivot, could also encourage or give counsel to the corporations on what to expect, what these needs may look like, and that goes back to the journey that Sue mentioned in that community, because here's where it's a collective, process. We all have to do this together to be successful, but those are two success stories that I've seen, and there are quite a few like that, but the other stories are, depending on what you're selling, it's a little bit challenging now, and now there's nobody to sell to. So those are two. I don't want to belabor the point, but those are two that I've seen.
Sue, how about you?
Yeah, so when you think about Essential, not only is our name Essential, but the work we do is essential. So during COVID, we needed to keep operating to deliver our services to our customers. So we really, had to keep operating, made many adjustments to our processes to keep our employees safe, but we did, continue with our business demands, business needs. So at the beginning of COVID, I was actually asked to take on the COVID response for the company. So as part of that, and many of us did this, we had, very routine meetings with our CEO and all of our leaders. And one of the key areas we'd look at was supply chain. And we were always looking at, do we have any business interruption for any of our supply chain? Because we were constantly calling out to our different key suppliers. And thankfully, we were able to go through this journey together. And we also made sure we always had contingency plans in place in the event. I think the one area that we all faced in the beginning was the PPE supplies. So I remember early on, we had to quickly acquire masks for our employees who were out in the field, responding to needs that otherwise couldn't be done in the office, right? So I was really grateful that not only our supply chain was able to go into our network of suppliers. So as Ron said, we have a lot of deep relationships and longstanding relationships that we were able to find and meet the needs of our company, even down to the fact of having one of our employees drive to Illinois and come back with the necessary masks and so forth. We were able to meet the need. It was a team effort. But as we traversed the COVID year or so, we had suppliers that really rose to the occasion. And I think the one I talked about earlier was that one supplier that's very instrumental in our construction work. And this supplier was able to be very agile and not only support our existing demand, but add some additional trucks and crews, i.e. employees at the same time to support our needs. And again, that is all based on the fundamentals of really great relationships, really great networks, staying in touch, good communication lines. So I hats off to our suppliers during the COVID. They really came through.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Ron. Ron, I have one question here for you, and it relates to the Executive Mentorship Program. They would like to get more details from you, hopefully offline. But is there a link or a website, or should you just work through the chamber here to get, or you're more than, it's up to you if you wish to share your contact information. But how would you like to handle that?
Yeah, I'll put my my email address in the chat, because this is a pilot for the executive team, but I'll put that in the chat. We're going to roll this out national. But I did see that question. I do know the individual who's asking the question. So
okay, all right, great.
You can email me direct.
Great. I believe we answered all of the questions that were in the Q&A as well as the chat. Ron, I'll go to you first. Any final thoughts or comments that you would like to share with the individuals today who are participating in this?
Well, first let me thank the chamber and thank you guys for the invite. I think this is great. I think, it's always good when you can bring panelists together to share insights and information and exchange best practices. Because I said it earlier, it takes a community, to really accomplish and move these initiatives forward. So, I'm thankful that you included me with Sue to speak on some of the successes that we've had at Caritas, as well as some of the challenges, because again, we'll share information and we'll overcome these challenges together. So if anybody needs to reach out to me, you can reach out to the chamber to contact me. But again, I just thank you guys for the opportunity and wish you guys all the success.
Thanks, Ron. Sue?
Yeah, I also want to end with a thanks. I really appreciate, Vince, your leadership, and Ron, your partnership, and all of my colleagues at the chamber. It's really, really happy to participate in this really important discussion. It is a journey. Folks that know me is I love to learn. And one thing that this journey provides you is a great opportunity to learn, give back, and partner with so many terrific organizations, suppliers, et cetera, throughout this journey. So again, I thank you for this opportunity and I wish everyone much success. And like Ron, if you need any help, just reach out.
Great. Well, I want to end by certainly I want to thank the Delco Chamber and Trish and her team. She's provided a significant amount of leadership in the last 18 months, and this is certainly an example. I certainly want to thank Essential Utilities and Sue and her executive team for their commitment. I want to thank Ron and AmeriHealth Caritas and their executive commitment for their to supplier diversity, to the business community here in Delaware County, and to all of those who participated. I hope you found this information useful. I'm Vince Gordon, Chair of the Business and Economic Equity Committee for the Delco Chamber of Commerce. I wish that all of you have a great day and be well. Thank you.